At our 10th anniversary dinner, my husband ordered another woman's favorite drink before I had even chosen mine. 24 hours later, I found a hotel receipt proving her appearance had not been a coincidence. But the charge that exposed the affair was not the most frightening thing on that page. The booking date was. My name is Natalie Brooks. I'm 36 years old, and I work in procurement for a medical equipment company in Nashville. My job is to compare contracts, question unexplained charges, and notice when numbers do not support the story attached to them. For months, I had ignored the same warning signs inside my own marriage. Ethan and I had been together for 12 years and married for 10. During the last year, he had grown distant in small, deniable ways. He started taking calls outside. He changed the password on his phone. He returned from work trips smelling freshly showered, even after late flights. Whenever I asked whether something was wrong, he said he was exhausted and accused me of turning ordinary stress into suspicion. So when he suggested a weekend in New Orleans for our anniversary, I wanted to believe it meant he was finally choosing us. That was my first mistake. On our second evening, we were seated in the courtyard restaurant of the Beaumont Hotel, beneath strings of warm lights and magnolia branches. A chilled bottle of champagne waited beside the table, but Ethan barely touched it. His phone lit up 3 times in 5 minutes. Each time he turned the screen face down. "Work?" I asked. He kept his eyes on the menu. "A client issue." Ethan worked in regional sales for Harrington Surgical Supply, one of the vendors my company occasionally purchased from. Hospitals called at strange hours, contracts changed, and surgeons could be demanding. For years, that explanation would have been enough. Lately, his explanations had started sounding like invoices with missing pages. Before I could ask another question, a woman's voice came from behind me. "Oh my God, Ethan?" He stood so fast that his chair scraped across the brick floor. Chloe Parker smiled as though she had rehearsed being surprised. She was 29, polished and pretty, wearing a cream dress and gold heels that did not look like something chosen for an emergency client meeting. I knew her name because Ethan mentioned her often enough for me to remember. And always with the same sentence. "She's just a friend." He said it that night before I had even asked. "Natalie, this is Chloe from the Memphis branch," he said. "Chloe, my wife." My wife. Not Natalie. Not the woman he had brought to New Orleans for our 10th anniversary. Just a title, delivered like a legal disclosure. Chloe touched my forearm. "It's so nice to finally meet you. Ethan talks about you all the time." "Does he?" I asked. Ethan laughed too loudly. "Chloe has a presentation at St. Vincent's tomorrow. We had no idea we were staying in the same area." A coincidence. The same city, the same hotel restaurant, the same evening. Exactly 15 minutes after our reservation began. I looked at Ethan. "You never mentioned she would be in New Orleans." His jaw tightened. "Because I didn't know." Chloe's smile disappeared for half a second. That was the first loose thread. Instead of letting her leave, Ethan invited her to sit down for one drink. He did not look at me before asking. He simply waved over the waiter. "A Sazerac for her," he said. Chloe smiled. "You remembered." He remembered her drink. That morning, he had asked whether I still took sugar in my coffee after watching me drink it black for 6 years. For the next 20 minutes, I watched my husband become someone I had not seen in months. He leaned toward Chloe when she spoke. He laughed before she finished her jokes. When she mentioned a supplier dinner in Louisville, Ethan said, "Don't remind me." And both of them smiled at a memory that did not include me. I sat across from them with his anniversary gift still unopened in my purse and wondered when I had become the guest at my own marriage. When Chloe finally stood to leave, Ethan followed her with his eyes until she crossed the courtyard. Then his expression hardened. "What was that?" he asked. "What was what?" "The staring, the interrogation. You embarrassed me." I folded my napkin slowly. "Your coworker appeared at our anniversary dinner, and you knew what she wanted to drink." "She is just a friend, Natalie." "You keep repeating that as though repetition makes it evidence." He leaned back and rubbed his forehead, performing exhaustion. "This is why I don't tell you every detail about work. You turn everything into an investigation." At work, people called me when a vendor billed twice, when a travel charge had been disguised as a business expense, or when a sales representative tried to bury a personal purchase inside a corporate account. I did not create investigations. I noticed when someone had already left fingerprints. But I did not argue. "I'm tired," I said. Ethan looked relieved, not ashamed, relieved. Upstairs, our room had chilled champagne, rose petals placed by hotel staff, and a view of Canal Street. Ethan took a shower and came out smelling like the sandalwood soap he packed only for business trips. He kissed my forehead instead of my mouth. "Let's not ruin the weekend," he said. Something had already been ruined. I just did not have the receipt yet. The next morning, Ethan was cheerful in a way that felt rehearsed. He ordered room service, called me beautiful, and placed a small navy box beside my coffee. Inside were diamond earrings. "They're too much," I said. He smiled. 10 years deserves too much." I wanted to believe him. That is the part that embarrassed me most. Not Chloe. Not the public humiliation. Not even the way my husband had looked more alive beside another woman than he had looked beside me in a year. What embarrassed me was how desperately I wanted one expensive gift to prove I had imagined everything else. At 11:40, Ethan said he needed to take a quick call in the lobby. "Can you grab my charger?" he asked from the doorway. "It's in the side pocket of my suitcase." As he said side pocket, his eyes flicked toward the luggage rack. Small, fast, almost nothing. But in my job, the smallest line on a document was often the line someone hoped no one would read. The charger was exactly where he said it would be. Beneath it, tucked behind an old boarding pass, was a folded receipt from the Maison Verlaine Hotel and Spa. Not our hotel. The stay had taken place 3 weeks earlier. I flattened the paper on the dresser. 2 rooms, a romantic dinner for 2, a couple's massage, champagne, late checkout. The total was $2,186.47. The guest name was Ethan Michael Brooks. Then I reached the reservation details at the bottom. The booking had been created 29 days earlier, 3 days before Ethan first suggested that we take an anniversary trip to save our marriage. New Orleans had never been his attempt to repair what was broken. It had been part apology, part alibi, and part cover. I photographed both sides of the receipt, then slipped the original into the inner lining of my purse before Ethan returned. He came back carrying 2 coffees and wearing the relaxed smile of a man who believed he had erased every trace of himself. "Found the charger?" he asked. I held it up. "Right where you said." For the rest of the trip, I acted normal. I wore the earrings to dinner. I let him photograph us beside the Mississippi River. I smiled when he posted the picture online with the caption, "10 years with my best friend." I had never understood how easily people could lie inside a photograph until I watched my husband do it. We returned to Nashville on Sunday afternoon. Ethan left his suitcase beside the washing machine and went upstairs to take another urgent call. I unpacked our clothes, placed the receipt inside a gray folder in my home office, and opened our joint bank account. I did not search for flowers or restaurants. Ethan knew I reviewed our monthly statements. He would never hide an affair with an obvious charge. So I searched for transfers, card payments, and recurring amounts that had no clear purpose. There were 11 payments over 8 months to a card account labeled E. Brooks Travel. The amounts were small enough to disappear among utilities and household expenses: $375, $620, $910. The largest was $2,400, paid 4 days before our anniversary trip. I recognized the last 4 digits. They matched the personal card listed on the Maison Verlaine receipt. The following evening, after Ethan went to the gym, I opened the cabinet above his desk where he kept old tax files and reimbursement records. Behind a stack of insurance documents, I found 3 printed expense reports: Louisville, Birmingham, Memphis. Each one listed hospital meetings, supplier dinners, and mileage reimbursements. Each trip matched a weekend Ethan had told me he was traveling alone. Stapled to the Memphis report was a hotel folio for 2 rooms. The second guest's name had been covered with a black marker, but the ink had bled through the thin paper. I held it beneath the desk lamp. Chloe Parker. Ethan's words said she was just a friend. His paperwork said they had been traveling together for months. I photographed every page and returned the folder exactly as I had found it. Then I began building a timeline using only documents I could legally access: our joint statements, papers stored inside our home, receipts attached to our shared accounts, and messages Ethan had sent me about his travel dates. By Friday, I had identified 14 questionable trips, 9 unexplained card payments, and 7 restaurant charges that appeared both on our personal statements and on reimbursement paperwork. The total exceeded $18,000. I still did not know whether Harrington had actually reimbursed every charge, but the pattern was strong enough that it could no longer be dismissed as a marriage problem. It might also be fraud. Then I remembered the earrings. The jeweler's name was printed inside the velvet box. I searched our shared email archive and found an electronic receipt Ethan had forwarded to our household account by mistake. The purchase had been made using his company email. The description read, "Client Appreciation Gift, Executive Account." I stared at the earrings lying beside my keyboard. Even his apology had been prepared for reimbursement. That night, Ethan noticed I was not wearing them. "You don't like the earrings?" he asked. "They're beautiful." "Then why did you take them off?" I met his eyes. "I'm saving them for an important client." For less than a second, the color left his face. Then he laughed. "You've been strange since New Orleans." He kissed my forehead and went upstairs. I waited until I heard the shower running. Then I changed every password Rebecca Sloan would later tell me I should have changed much sooner. At that point, I had not met Rebecca yet. By Monday, I needed her. A certified envelope arrived from Cumberland Home Lending. Our mortgage was on automatic payment, so I nearly set it aside. Then I saw the words "Home Equity Credit Application" beneath the address window. Inside was a notice thanking Ethan Brooks and Natalie Brooks for applying for a $165,000 home equity line of credit. I had applied for nothing. The second page contained Ethan's electronic signature and mine. My name appeared in a smooth digital script I had never used. The stated purpose of the loan was home renovation, but attached to the application was a proposed disbursement instruction, directing most of the funds to a title company handling the purchase of a condominium in East Nashville. The lender had included a copy of the proposed purchase contract because our house would secure the loan. 2 bedrooms, floor-to-ceiling windows, underground parking, closing requested within 60 days. On the occupancy form, Ethan had written that he intended to move into the condominium after a pending marital separation. A second occupant was listed only as C. Parker. That was when my hands finally began to shake. The affair could break my marriage. The forged loan could take my home before I even understood what had happened. I called the lender's fraud department and told them I had never signed the application. They froze the file and asked me to come in the next morning with identification and samples of my signature. Before leaving work, I contacted a family attorney named Rebecca Sloan. She listened without interrupting while I described the receipt, the expense reports, the earrings, and the loan application. When I finished, she asked one question. "Does your husband's employer sell products to your company?" "Yes." "Then he may try to make this look like professional retaliation," she said. "Do not contact Chloe. Do not contact his clients. Do not access anything through your job. Send me only documents you are legally entitled to see." I already made a timeline. "Good. Save copies outside the house, and do not confront him." 2 hours later, after reviewing the lender's file, Rebecca called me back. "There is a letter in the application package from Ethan's divorce attorney," she said. "The attorney requested estimated mortgage payoff and equity figures." I gripped the edge of my desk. When? 26 days ago. 3 days before Ethan invited me to New Orleans. The anniversary trip had not been an attempt to save our marriage. It had been a delay tactic while he prepared to leave it. The next morning, Ethan left before sunrise without saying goodbye. At 9:10, my manager asked me to join an unscheduled video meeting with corporate compliance. My company's compliance director was there, along with human resources and outside counsel. They told me Harrington Surgical Supply had submitted a formal complaint accusing me of misusing my procurement position to target one of its sales employees. Ethan had claimed I accessed confidential vendor information, contacted hotels while pretending to represent Harrington, and harassed Chloe because I had become obsessed with an imaginary affair. The complaint described me as emotionally unstable. It also demanded that I be removed from all purchasing decisions involving Harrington. No one from my company accused me outright, but until the allegation was reviewed, my access to several procurement systems was suspended. By noon, 3 coworkers stopped talking when I entered the break room. My closest friend at work, Lauren, called me from the parking lot. "He's trying to make this look like you used the company to punish him," she whispered. "Natalie, this could destroy your career." I looked at the folder beside my computer. Ethan had not denied the receipt. He had tried to discredit the person holding it. That evening, I came home and found his side of the closet empty. On the kitchen counter sat a business card from his attorney, a typed instruction not to contact Chloe or Harrington, and a proposed settlement. Ethan would transfer his interest in the house to me and pay $90,000 if I signed a statement saying I had misunderstood the Maison Verlaine receipt, accessed records without authorization, and made unfounded accusations against him and Chloe. The agreement also required me to withdraw my fraud report with the mortgage lender. That was the sentence that made everything clear. He was not offering me peace. He was trying to purchase a false confession before the loan investigation reached him. I picked up the original hotel receipt to place it in a protective sleeve. As I turned it over, faint blue ink showed through the paper. I had photographed the back in New Orleans, but in the hotel's dim light I had assumed the marks were transfer ink from another document. Under my desk lamp, the handwriting became clear. "Just a few more months, and we won't have to hide from her anymore." Beneath the sentence was a tiny blue heart, and below the heart were 2 words: "Our new place." The receipt did not merely prove they had traveled together. It connected Chloe to the condominium, the forged loan, and Ethan's plan to erase me from both my marriage and my home. I called Rebecca. She read the message twice before speaking. "Do not sign anything," she said. I'm sending a preservation notice to Ethan's attorney, the lender, and Harrington's legal department tonight. The next morning, I uploaded the receipt, bank statements, expense reports, jewelry invoice, loan application, settlement proposal, and my timeline to Rebecca's secure portal. I did not accuse Ethan of anything the documents could not support. I did not call him a thief. I did not call Chloe his mistress. I did not describe what I felt. The dates, signatures, and amounts were enough. Harrington opened an internal investigation 2 days later. Ethan, Chloe, and Ethan's supervisor, Martin Hale, were placed on administrative leave. Martin had approved nearly every questionable expense, including weekend travel on dates when the hospitals listed in the reports had no meetings scheduled. The audit widened. Investigators found canceled appointments attached to reimbursement requests, altered restaurant receipts, duplicate mileage claims, and conference registrations for events Ethan never attended. Some hotel charges had been split between Ethan's corporate card and Martin's departmental budget, so neither total would attract attention. The scheme went back 4 years. The confirmed loss was $73,418.26. My own employer restored my system access after its review found no evidence that I had used confidential procurement data. Every document I had submitted came from my home, shared accounts, or the lender's fraud file. The complaint against me was closed. Ethan's was only beginning. He called me 17 times the night Harrington informed him of the audit findings. I answered once. "You destroyed my career," he said. "No," I replied. "I organized the documents." His breathing changed. "You have no idea what you've done. Our savings are tied to this. The house is tied to this. If they make me repay the money, you lose too." That was the first honest thing he had said in months. His settlement offer vanished. In its place came threats disguised as legal advice. His attorney claimed I had invaded his privacy. Martin's attorney suggested I had manipulated documents because I worked in procurement. Chloe sent me a message saying I was punishing innocent people because my marriage had failed. I forwarded every message to Rebecca without replying. 3 weeks later, Harrington's outside counsel scheduled a final compliance conference at the company's Nashville headquarters. Because Ethan and Chloe had blamed me for the investigation, I was invited as a reporting witness and custodian of the original receipt. The room contained Harrington's chief financial officer, the internal audit director, outside counsel, 2 board representatives, and attorneys for the employees under investigation. Ethan arrived in the navy suit I had bought him for our 8th anniversary. Chloe sat 2 seats away from him, pale and rigid. Martin kept polishing his glasses with a folded handkerchief, even though the lenses were already clean. I sat beside Rebecca with the receipt sealed inside a clear evidence sleeve. The company's attorney reviewed the travel claims first. Ethan admitted that some expenses had been categorized incorrectly, but called them administrative mistakes. "The trips were legitimate," he said. "Chloe and I worked closely together. She was a colleague and a friend. My wife saw one receipt, became jealous, and built a fantasy around it." There it was again. Just a friend. The audit director looked at Chloe. "Did you and Mr. Brooks stay at Maison Verlaine on the dates shown?" "We had separate rooms," she said. "Did you attend the couple's massage together?" "It came with the package," Ethan answered for her. The attorney turned toward him. "Mr. Brooks, the spa confirmed that 2 guests signed in together." Ethan's face tightened. "Then we used something that was already included. That does not make it an affair." "Was the romantic dinner a business meeting?" "Yes." "With whom?" "With Chloe." "What business was discussed?" Ethan glanced at Martin. Martin looked down. Then Ethan turned toward me. Natalie has been emotionally unstable for months. She took an ordinary hotel receipt and turned it into a conspiracy. Rebecca placed one hand over mine, reminding me not to interrupt. The committee chair asked whether I had brought the original document. I opened the folder and slid the receipt across the table. "Please read the back," I said. That was all. The audit director turned it over. His expression changed first. Then he passed it to the chief financial officer, who read the message aloud. "Just a few more months, and we won't have to hide from her anymore. Our new place." The room became completely still. Ethan stared at Chloe. "You wrote on it?" Her mouth opened. "You told me you destroyed it." Martin closed his eyes. Ethan leaned toward her. "Do not say another word." But Chloe had just realized the man who promised to protect her had spent the entire meeting preparing to blame her. And she began talking. She admitted the trips were personal. She admitted Ethan had promised they would buy the East Nashville condominium after his divorce. She admitted Martin knew about the relationship and approved false expenses because Ethan had helped Martin disguise his own personal travel as supplier development. Then Harrington's attorney asked whether Chloe believed Ethan intended to move into the condominium with her. Her expression changed. "I did," she said, "until last week." She unlocked her phone and handed it to her attorney, who passed it to outside counsel. The screen showed messages between Ethan and Marissa Cole, a sales coordinator in Harrington's Charlotte branch. Hotel confirmations, photographs, plans for a December trip. A message in which Ethan called Chloe a temporary complication. Chloe had not been the other woman. She had been one of them. For the first time, Ethan had no explanation ready. Not because the truth was complicated, because too many women were now holding different pieces of the same lie. Within 48 hours, Harrington terminated Ethan and Martin for fraud and serious misconduct. Chloe resigned before the disciplinary process ended and later cooperated with the company's recovery action. Harrington demanded repayment of the $73,418.26, along with a portion of its legal and audit costs. The mortgage lender referred the forged signature to its fraud investigators and canceled the home equity application. Months later, as part of the divorce settlement and related civil proceedings, Ethan signed a formal admission that I had never authorized the loan and that his allegations against my professional conduct had been false. But I still sold the house. Legally, I might have fought to keep it. Practically, the property was tied to marital debt, legal fees, and years of financial deception I no longer wanted attached to my name. Selling it was not the ending Ethan had promised in his first settlement offer. It was the price of separating my future from his past. On closing day, I stood alone in the empty kitchen where he had left the demand for my silence. I removed the diamond earrings from my purse and placed them inside their velvet box for the attorneys to inventory with the remaining marital property. They had never been an anniversary gift. They were a corporate expense disguised as affection, evidence wearing a ribbon. I moved into a 2-bedroom apartment near Percy Warner Park. It had ordinary cabinets, thin walls, and a balcony large enough for one chair. For the first few nights, the silence felt unfamiliar. Then it began to feel expensive. Everything inside that apartment belonged to me. No hidden accounts, no forged signatures, no second room booked under another woman's name. Ethan eventually sent an apology through our attorneys. He said he had felt trapped, frightened, and unable to tell me the truth. I did not answer. The truth had never been unavailable to him. It had simply been less convenient than lying. One hotel receipt did not destroy my marriage. It proved the marriage had already been built on hidden rooms, borrowed money, reimbursed apologies, and promises made to women who did not know about one another. I lost a house, but I kept my name, my career, and the right to look at myself without shame. Sometimes justice does not make you richer. Sometimes it simply makes your silence impossible to buy. Tell me in the comments what you would have done after finding that receipt. And subscribe to Raw Drama Stories for more stories where the truth never needs to shout.